the CS100 stage, we have the Chief Customer Officer of DISQO, David Karp.
I'd ask you all to stand up and clap again so I could get that out of the way, but it is really an honor to be here, and I don't think I'm going to share anything new, but my hope is to just give you a little bit that much more confidence that you can take something out of these incredible last couple of days and be the kind of leader that I think our customers are counting on getting from people that do customer success work, our companies are counting on, that really bold kind of unicorn leader. I'm confident we can all do that. We just have to make the decision to do it. So I want to chat about that for a little bit. Is that okay? We good? All right. So first thing I want to tell you is on my 59th birthday, I ran my personal best half marathon. Felt really great. All right, thank you. All right, we'll see if you clap for the next one. On my 60th birthday, I got a totally different birthday present. I'm going to show you what this birthday present was. This was my 60th birthday present, a year later. I'm going to tell you right now, this is the best birthday present I ever got. I will tell you why. That is a grade 2 astrocytoma in my left occipital lobe. And I literally got a call from my neuro-oncologist on my birthday to say, congratulations. What was amazing about that is, number one, there's about 1 in every 200,000 people in the US that'll get this. If you do the math, about 15% of the people that get it are my age, which means there's about 200 people a year that get this diagnosis. But here's what's amazing about this. It's slow growing, we caught it early, and I had a choice to make, right? I've been preparing for this moment because I was healthy. What do I want to do now with this? I want to be bold, right? I'm not afraid. I'm just going to go for it, and that's how I want to show up every day. That's the choice that I decided to make. So why it was the best birthday present? Because it put me in a position where I had to make a choice, and I chose I'm going to be bold. So I want to talk a little bit about leadership just for a moment here, because I think leadership's the same thing. It's a decision that we all get to make, and I think we get to make how do we want to lead. It's a decision, but here's what's interesting. The average statistics say, and this is debatable, the average person makes about 35,000 decisions a day. By the way, 200 of those relate to food. So if you were trying to figure out last night what crumble cookie did I want, or do I want 2, or what swig flavor do I want, you were right in the zone of what this is. Okay, you were just living out your best human decision-making process. But for leaders, it's a little different. Here's what's happening for leaders. 75% of leaders are saying that the complexity and number of decisions they have to make over the past 3 years has gone up tenfold. So think about that, right? It's one thing to have to make a lot of decisions as a person. As a leader, I have to make so many more, and it's getting a lot more complex. Over 85% of those leaders will tell you, I've got so much data coming at me, it's not helpful. I just am stuck in trying to figure out how do I make the right decisions every day. Does that resonate with anybody? Is that we're all living in that world? Maybe 10x is a little too low. It's overwhelming, right? I think it's even more challenging when you get into CS and CS leaders in particular, because all those things are true. But let's talk about what was Chris just talking about, AI. AI is here. It's real. We're being asked to do more. We're being asked to do it with less. It's disrupting every playbook we've had, everything we're doing. It's disrupting our customers. It's just making our decision process harder. I want to be bold as a leader, but I've got to deal with this. See if I can get this to one more. There you go. This is from a 2024 TSIA study when CS leaders were asked where do they want to report. Anybody, can you see what that big bar is on the right? I don't want to report to revenue. I don't want to report to the CRO. I want to report to a chief customer officer. I want to report to somebody who gets me. How many people in this room are being asked to do something related to revenue right now? Just about everybody, right? So there's also, besides the fact I'm dealing with AI, I'm dealing with this incredible organizational pressure to align in a place that I'm not really sure I want to align. And my guess is some of you already do. In fact, a lot of us already do. That's where we are in our organizations. That's a lot. That's hard. Okay, Karp, so you're gonna stand in front of me and say, I've got to be bold, I'm gonna lead better, and I got all this going on. So let's talk a little bit about how you can start to pivot to being a bold CS leader that I'm telling you, our customers are counting on that from us, and our companies are counting on it from us. This is a very sample agenda from a board meeting. How many of you are confident that if I were to ask you, you know what's talked about, like our board meetings are 4 hours every quarter, we do check-ins in between. How many of you are confident you can name 80% of the things that are talked about on your board meeting agenda? Okay, we got a couple of hands, a couple of people say, I got this. What about our executive team meets a couple hours every week? How confident are you know what's on your executive team's agenda? Again, not a lot. But here's what happens. This is what, anybody want to guess my opinion? I'm going to take off the table. AI is driving a lot of conversations about efficiency. And you've heard this already over the last couple of days. What's the number one thing that everybody wants to talk about in a board meeting? What's that? One more time? AI, revenue. AI is really important. You get the question, what are you doing with AI? But it's growth. How are we going to grow? What are we doing to grow? Right? We're talking about how's our pipeline growing? What's our conversion doing? Those are the big conversations that we're having. What are the big bets that we're making? Where are we investing our resources? Has anybody heard me say a customer success metric yet? Not yet, right? Here's the interesting thing. If you talk about, if churn happens to come up in the context of our board meeting or our executive meeting, it comes up in the context of, well, what are our competitors doing? Why are we losing? It doesn't come up because our health scores were bad. And I know we know this intrinsically, but it's a very different conversation. Here's what's amazing, is I'm confident we have the most valuable information to inform this conversation. Again, we've talked about this over the last couple of days. We're just not good at talking to it. So when we're having a conversation with our executive team, we want to be able to understand and speak the language of the business and how do we help this business grow. It's just not the language we're used to talking about. But I can tell you, because I've experienced it, when we start to speak that language, it changes the kind of leader you get to be. This, to me, is a really interesting. This is how we live most of our lives. I really believe that every bit of inefficiency at a company leaks towards the customer. Right? We didn't train a salesperson right. They set a bad expectation. Where do we find that out? Right? It hits the customer. Onboarding, implementation, the first, whatever it is, boy, it runs us over. We miss a product release because something else got reprioritized. When does that show up? When we have to explain to the customer why they're not going to be able to do what they want to do. We play defense. But here's the interesting thing. Our job is not really to be the goalie, because we didn't create all those conditions. We just happen to be the ones who see it. So we have that opportunity to change our perspective. When I talk with our team at DISQO, what we talk about is I'm never going to be mad when a salesperson sets a bad expectation, we miss a product release, and I get punched in the nose by a customer. I was just on a call early this morning. It was pretty tough. It's an organizational issue. My responsibility is to see it and go back to the rest of the company to help it get solved. When I'm looking at it that way, when I'm not complaining, this is just human dynamics, it's organizational dynamics, these things happen, but how I decide to respond to that changes the entire conversation. So instead of being the goalie, I want to take that information and go on offense and start having conversations about, we have misalignment over here. The number of times I've sat in a meeting and I've listened to everybody be confident, nodding their heads. We're all on the same page, right? But they were using a word like self-serve. What does that mean? This person meant one thing, this person meant something else. We use the same words. What work am I doing to close those gaps? We have a huge opportunity to do that. So I want to talk a little bit about how we just run and start doing this. You up for that? We still good? All right. I'm going to tell a little bit of what I did when I got to DISQO. When I showed up, my last interview, and I was talking to our 3 founders, this is about 4 years ago, and the internal NPS score was like 95. It was incredible. But they kind of sheepishly asked me if I'm going to come into a customer success role. I said, maybe we've over-indexed a little bit on satisfaction with our people, but not enough with customers. So I just asked them, I said, how do we change that? I just asked them, how often do you talk to the company about customer wins? I don't mean logos you put up on the board, but how often do you talk about where we are actually impacting the business of our customers? And they looked at each other and kind of shrugged. So that's what we started to do. All we started to do was talk about stories about how our customers were winning because of what we did. We did it everywhere. I did it everywhere. Every all hands meeting once a month. We stopped just showing a logo slide. We started bringing stories. The customer success team brought stories of how we were impacting our customers. Everybody in the company was asking, where do I fit in? I had a conversation with our IT security team, and here's what I told them. They said, come on, help us out. I said, I want you to imagine this. What time is it right now? It's 2 o'clock. I want you to imagine it's 2 o'clock on Wednesday, and your customer, it happens to be their 10th anniversary. They've planned a special dinner that night with their significant other. So they need to be home around 6 o'clock, really special night for them. Oh, by the way, they have a presentation with you and your boss to the CEO on a major initiative you've been working on for 3 months. All they have to do is log into your product, pull some data, update the presentation, shoot it off to your boss so they can review it before Friday, and you go home and have a great meal. But what happens when they log into your system and the data's wrong? Or they can't get in? What's happening to that person in that moment? Said, hey, IT security team, that's what you're solving for. That can never happen, because that's real. And that's probably happening across our customer base right now. There's somebody that's counting on us to deliver for them, and I don't mean us as in us in this room, our companies across every department, so they can go home and they can have a celebratory dinner with somebody that matters to them. Those are the stories we started sharing with the rest of the organization. It changed everything. And the best way I could confirm that for you is 3 years later, we redid our values, and we had a really hard conversation. We think for the first time, we're willing to declare champion the customer is one of our most important values. We put it on our website, but we had to earn that. And that only happened because we started telling our customer stories to every part of the organization. Nobody knows that better than customer success. So what I'd like to do is just give you 5 bold moves that I think you can make. As we go through this, I'm just going to ask you, pick one. Pick one. There's nothing I'm going to tell you haven't already heard in your last couple days here, but just pick one and decide, I want to be bold. I want to be that unicorn. I want to be the leader that people are counting on CS leaders to be. And by the way, I apologize if you feel like you already are and I'm saying you're not. I need to get better at this. So maybe I'm just talking to myself, and thank you for sitting here, so I'm not standing in an empty room talking to myself. So I appreciate that. Here's the first one. We talk about voice of the customer. We run voice of the customer programs. But I think of it this way. What stories can we tell about our customers and how they're winning? I'll never forget, I had a big initiative with a very senior executive at Apple. And what we were going to do with him was one of only 2 things that every single employee at Apple was going to see. One was an annual letter from the CEO. The second was the program we were working on. And we were going to change it. Really high stakes for him. In fact, when we sat in the room getting ready to sign the contract, he looked at me and said, if this gets screwed up, you're going down with me. Literally happened. But I was able to go back to the company and say, this is the kind of impact we get to have at Apple if we get this right. It influenced our product roadmap. I'll never forget the call I got from that guy 9 months later to tell me about the promotion he got. So I can go lots of different stories of people that I've worked with, and because I knew what mattered to them and what mattered to their company, and I brought that back to our company, and the whole company rallied because we were going to do something big for a customer and their business. 2 things I'd say. Think right now, are there 5 senior people at a customer, 5 executives that I could call right now, and they would take my call because I can have a conversation about how I want to help their business? And if not, that's okay, but start making that a goal. Here's the other crazy thing that happens when you do that. Sales is very good at bringing along other executives to help close deals. It's really different when you bring along other executives to help deliver on somebody's business priority. That's a totally different kind of person showing up. Every executive of our business just like, Karp, when can I come back out on another meeting with you? When do we get to go talk to this person? They want that. because they get to see the kind of impact we get to make on customers, not just that moment, that amazing, right, hard-earned moment when we sign the first deal, but how we're actually impacting somebody else's business. Second thing, and you've got a lot of good examples of this, I took Jay's course. Like, does anybody know what that is? Simple P&L, everybody know that? If I asked you what that means, where you see yourself impacting that, would you know? Got a bunch of nods, but my guess is some of you are like, please don't ever ask me to do that because I don't know. That's okay. I went through a stretch in my life where I didn't know. But the more you understand that, the more you're equipped to have that conversation. What typically happens is someone gives us a metric that we have to go hit, a headcount number, an efficiency number that rolls up in there somewhere, but the growth story's in there too. The things that we can do with customers to drive growth is in there too. The more you understand how this works and where you can drive impact, the better you get to have that conversation. So number two, we've got to know this, and there's a lot of resources out there to help us. Number three, I think we're all probably pretty good at partnering with product. We've learned how to do this pretty well. We did something really fun this year. We had all of our CSMs stack rank top to bottom what they thought the most critical impacting features were for clients. We then had AI do the same based on all the conversations we had with clients. Matched almost perfectly. But what happens when we're talking about features? They did. Chris gonna tell me I'm wrong, but no, they did. It was amazing. I don't know if I should have been happy or not about that, but it was very closely correlated. But here's what happened. We were talking about features. And so now we're in a stack ranking, and where do we have constraints on the product team, and how do we get this delivered? But we did something different. So what we said is we're gonna have a different conversation. I'm not just gonna be a great partner with product. I'm gonna push them. But here's how we push them. What we did is we changed the conversation. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the concept of TAM, SAM, and SOM. Anybody familiar with that? Think about TAM as just overall market and how big is the market that you could possibly go get with your set of products. As you start to narrow that down, it's really what could you realistically win with your product capabilities today? What does your go-to-market model allow you to go get? So we started talking to our product team about this. Based on what our customers have told us, it's not just the features. If we can add these kind of capabilities, it's not just, it's gonna change the impact we can have on our customers and how much they'll spend with us. Sales is great at this because it helps them sell more, and they should be. What I found is a lot of us in CS we're not, because we're not always thinking this way. We're trying to solve the customer problem that's in front of us. This is about the customer problem that's down the road. When you build those relationships and you understand the customer and you know how to talk about the revenue, you get to have this kind of conversation. We created a completely separate product roadmap, a whole set of initiatives. I've told some people I've got a bunch of stuff because we're doing a big launch on Monday, all because we thought about things this way. Two more quick things for you. Any Brady Bunch fans? I'm really dating myself. Okay. I think a lot of us probably know kind of first teams principle, like who's your first team. If I was to say, if you were to look at your calendar and look at where you spend the most of your time internally, is it with your team or is it with your peers across departments? You don't have to answer, just think about my calendar. Where do I spend most of my time? I'm pretty sure what your team wants you to do is spend most of your time with the other departments so you can start to close those gaps, build relationships, get things done. But there's more. So what if I asked you, do you know the critical KPIs that those leaders are being measured on? How many think for every cross-functional leader, product, sales, operations, you know what your parallel leaders' top KPIs are? We got a couple hands, thank you. Well, how about this? What if I asked about their boss? Do you know what their KPIs are? Thank you, couple hands. Think about how different the conversation is when you're partnering across the organization, but I know what your KPI is. I'm not playing goalie anymore. I'm now coming having conversations about how we are going to close these gaps together. When we solve it, I'm gonna solve for your KPI too, not just mine. That's a totally different conversation. What if I can help solve for your boss's KPI? You get invited into every single conversation when you start to do that. I always think to myself, what happens when I leave a room? Are people gonna invite me into the next meeting? Did they feel like I was there, helping make things better for everybody? And it's amazing when you start to have this kind of conversation, you get invited back into every room all the time because you're solving organizational problems and you're solving it for people. It's a very different way to think about how am I leading across an organization. One more, I'm dating myself on all these, so forgive me. My favorite storyteller, Stephen King, The Stand, still one of the greatest good versus evil books ever. How good of a storyteller are you? Like, your customers want you to be a great storyteller. Your executive team wants you to be a great storyteller. They want you not just to have the data. Right? We've kind of gone from the person with the data wins to the person with the knowledge wins, the person with the insights wins. I'll argue the person with the best stories that are rooted in those things is who's going to win. Can I actually connect the story of our customer, the story of our business into one story and tell it over and over? Which, by the way, I thought I was pretty good at this. And then I did use AI, I used ChatGPT and said, just do a brutal audit and tell me what I'm missing. And here's what it said to me. Okay, smart guy, you're a good storyteller. Have you taught your team how to be a storyteller too? Like this is for us. But imagine if everybody who's spending all this time with our customers becomes a great storyteller for our customers and for our company. It changes everything. So just to kind of show it's your turn. You get to choose. I think these are 5 bold moves to be that like bold leader that I know we all want to be. Right? We all in CS say we want a seat at the table. I don't want permission. I want to show up because I'm able to say, you need me in that room. You need me at that table. I want to be in this conversation because I understand how to impact our business and I've got the knowledge to do it and I can speak your language. We can all do this. If you already got these, awesome. If you don't, pick one. Pick one. And here's what I'd ask you to do though. After I had a little surgery, I had a little dime-sized hole cut in my head, which I tell people if it was any bigger, my brain would have fallen out, so that's why it was dime-sized. I got a little titanium thing there. My health is great. My lifespan is as good as it's ever been. And part of that, everybody said it's because of your mindset. I mean, your health is pretty good, but you made the decision that this is how you're going to show up. And so one of the folks in our office gave me a unicorn. I would love to be able to do the same for any of you. If you make one of these bold moves or you feel like I'm doing it now, I'm being bold, I want to be that unicorn CS leader that everybody's counting on, let me know. I want to send you a unicorn. All right? All right. That's all I've got. I don't know if you want to do some questions, anything I can share with you. We good? Thank you for listening to me and joining for a bit.